Hello and welcome to Ag PhD. I'm Brian Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. You know, we talk about pre-emerge herbicides a lot on the show, and we'll get some feedback from listeners saying, well, that's fine for you corn and soybean guys, but we raise wheat. Well, guess what? We're going to talk about pre-emerge herbicides for wheat today because it may be even more important in that crop.
We're also going to talk about one of the most important things for your corn and soybean crops, that is seed treatment.
Of course, we have a tough to control weed of the week and an iron talk to get to, but first, here's our farm basics.
How much yield and profit did you lose the moment you put your seed in the ground? A poor stand at planting keeps your crops from reaching their yield potential, and closing the seed trench behind the planter is essential to establishing a good crop stand. The Germinator Closing Wheel from Farm Shop MFG is here to give your crop the strong start it needs for maximum yield. Act now to receive an early order rebate plus free shipping. Get ready for spring planting with the Germinator Closing Wheel. For more information, visit farmshopmfg.com.
During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about the upcoming Ag PhD Field Day.
I know, it seems a little far off when we talk about the last Thursday in July, but guess what? Plans are already underway, seed is in place, even some of the crop protection things that we're going to show are already in place, fertility things are already there and ready to be applied. We're excited with all the new things we have to show you at this year's Ag PhD Field Day.
This is the largest field day in North America each year. We have around 10,000 farmers who join us, and we hope you can be one of those. Every year we bring in great farmers from around the United States and even around the world to talk about their production practices, things they're doing to, in some cases, set world record yields. We'll show you a lot of new technology. We have so many things to share with you, and it's a one-day event. Again, it's the last Thursday in July every year.
And you know, this winter there have been a lot of great opportunities to learn, but it's one thing to sit in a classroom and learn versus being out in the field with the crop in the middle of the growing season. I can't think of any better way to see what's going on than to just be able to say, all right, let's see the treatment and let's dig up the roots. And that's exactly what we do. We'll have roots dug up. We'll dig root pits on the field day site. We'll do everything we can to show you every part of that plant and what's being changed by some of the management practices we're doing.
We talk about all the things you can see at the Ag PhD Field Day with all these different crops. I would also say, I mentioned earlier about high yield farmers that we bring in from around the country. They will have plots they've been managing all season long on our farm. So hopefully you can take something you're going to learn and bring it back to your operation.
There are generally at least a dozen crops on the Ag PhD Field Day site, so don't think this is a corn and soybean show. We'll have everything from cotton to sugar beets to alfalfa and a number of other things there. So there'll be a lot of different crops to look at. Plus there'll be some game-changing new equipment, even some world premieres at our Ag PhD Field Day. So come be ready to look at crops, be ready to look at equipment, but also ready to talk to all the other farmers that are there to learn from their experience as well.
We have some other great guest speakers lined up to speak to you that day. And just in terms of changes from what we've done in the past, if you've been at the Ag PhD Field Day before, we'd love to have you come back. We have so many new things to share with you. We're going to shorten up a lot of the speaking events so you can catch more speakers throughout the day. You can see more plots and just get more involved at the field day this year.
Once again, we've been talking about the Ag PhD Field Day. It's a one-day event. It's Thursday, July 30th of 2020, and we would love to have you there. It's free and it's fun for the whole family.
Yeah, and it is free because we just want to say thanks to you for watching Ag PhD over all the years. We've been on the air for over 20 years now. We've had Ag PhD radio on for over 6 years. It's been awesome, and we could not have done that without you. So that's why we put this event on our farm. We'd love to have you join us on our farm for the Ag PhD Field Day. Just go to agphd.com to pre-register and to learn more.
Well, one thing I hope you don't see at the Ag PhD Field Day is our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this week's weed?
More choices, more money. With Bayer Plus Rewards, you choose from our broad portfolio of high-performance products. Earn more money on the eligible products that are right for your farm. And use our new portal to see your purchases, track your rewards, and decide how you want to use them. Visit mybayerplus.com to sign in and start earning. That's the advantage of more control in your hands. That's the plus.
Avoid the V-shaped pattern of injury caused by chemical buildup in your booms. The Express End Cap from Hypro eliminates the dead ends that lead to herbicide buildup and provides easy access to your booms, giving a complete flush between applications. Hypro, helping you spray better.
Challenging field conditions often make harvest difficult. Can your corn head handle it? The GTS X10 corn head from Agra US is a rugged, cost-effective alternative to heavier, more traditional heads. Constructed of durable yet lightweight aluminum, the X10 puts less strain on your combine without losing harvest effectiveness. And it is 40% lighter than traditional heads, reducing field compaction in those less than ideal conditions. For more information, give us a call at 8334-AGRA US.
There are a lot of steps to having a perfect season. Don't let your fertilizer plan be the step that trips you up. No matter when you apply fertilizer, no matter how, AgroLiquid has the experts and the products that'll help you move closer to your target and hit the bullseye. AgroLiquid moves you closer to your target.
Do you feel like there's never enough time to get everything done before planting? The window for spring work is quick and unforgiving. Give yourself the upper hand with the ProTill High Performance High Speed Disc. More and more farmers agree the ProTill is the right tool for springfield conditions and heavy residue management. Zero maintenance bearings, independent disc technology, oversized pins and bushings allow the ProTill to handle whatever field or conditions you can throw at it. Degelman High Performance Equipment.
The Grain Temp Guard from Farm Shop MFG has helped farmers keep their bushels safe from spoilage and shrinkage loss in bins all across the country. And this low-cost solution just became even more affordable. Farm Shop MFG is offering a $100 factory rebate on all Grain Temp Guard bin monitoring systems. This offer is available for a limited time only, so take advantage of this program now to upgrade your bins and protect your crop investments. For more information, visit farmshopmfg.com.
Pre-emerge herbicides are incredibly important, even in spring wheat. Today we're going to talk about your options if you're going to raise wheat this spring.
Well, when you think about raising wheat, normally we're most concerned about grass weeds, but unfortunately, Roundup-resistant kochia has been spreading through many of the wheat growing areas in our country. So I want to start this off by talking about broadleaf control in wheat. And when it comes to controlling broadleaves with the pre-emerge herbicide, I can't think of a better option than using Sharpen. You can use a couple ounces of Sharpen and get a good level of residual control, which means you're going to get soil activity and later weeds germinating, taking in that product, complete control. It's awesome. I love Sharpen. I would expect to see 99% of your kochia gone for at least 2 or 3 weeks. After that, well, then you're going to probably have to come back with a post-emerge product. But think of it this way. If you can wipe out that whole first flush, now all of a sudden, all those big ones that were out there when you're going out to spray your post-emerge spray, well, they're gone. Now you've just got a few little ones to deal with, and you can easily wipe them out with your post-emerge choices. I love Sharpen as the basis of a good broadleaf weed control program in wheat.
Well, I think Darren is underselling Sharpen by saying it only has 2 to 3 weeks worth of residual. I would count on 1 to 2 months worth of residual out of Sharpen toward many of the broadleaves, especially the small seeded broadleaves. Not the greatest on the big seeds, but on the small seeded broadleaves like kochia, it's pretty good. All right, well, broadleaves are one thing, but you know what? Wheat's a grass crop, so I'm much more concerned about grass. If I've got a grass weed out there, I want to stop it, and I want to stop it as early as possible because that's what usually hurts my yield the most when I'm raising wheat. So I think about Prepare. Prepare, in my opinion, is the best pre-emerge herbicide for wheat when we talk about grass, and it's really, really inexpensive. You're talking $3 to $5 an acre, that's it.
Well, when you look at that, okay, I get it. You're probably going to choose Prepare instead of Sharpen because it's cheaper. And you're right, if you've got grass, this is definitely a better option because Sharpen's not going to take care of your grass. But when you think about that $3 to $5, you're probably thinking, wait a second, so there's different use rates, and you're absolutely right. The full rate is 3/10 of an ounce, so 0.3 ounces per acre. And the lower rate that many farmers are using is 0.2 ounces per acre. The difference is in low pH situations, the 0.3 ounce is what you need to use in order to have good control. In the high pH soils, you can get by with 2/10 of an ounce.
Here's the big thing. Prepare is so inexpensive, and Sharpen doesn't cost all that much either, but we find so many wheat producers do not use a pre-emerge herbicide. My estimate is over 95% of wheat producers aren't using a pre. I'd really encourage you, if you raise wheat, put the pre out there, at least on some acres, especially your worst acres. Once you do that, you're gonna go, oh yeah, there's an absolute difference there. And I realize a lot of people are raising wheat because it's a low input crop. But you know what? I don't care what I spend, I care about what I make. And if you have any grass weeds, any broadleaf weeds in that crop, yes, I realize you can kill some of them post-emerge, and the wheat will sometimes choke those weeds out, but it's just not the same. You don't end up with the same yield at the end of the year. So we just really encourage you to put something down. Sharpen for broadleaves, prepare for grass, and I'll throw one other thing in there, that is Zidua. Now with Zidua, there's also, by the way, Anthem Flex that is AIM plus Zidua, but the whole thing is with that Zidua, you have to be real careful about how you use it. You want to seed the wheat, have that wheat germinating, if not even emerged, just slightly, and then you put that on. But Zidua is a group 15, we talk about that often. AIM is basically a burn down herbicide with no residual.
Well, I like that about Zidua, Brian, that it is a group 15 and it's something that we're not using normally in wheat, which is kind of nice to get a different mode of action in there. Because let's go back to Prepare. That's an ALS or group 2 herbicide. If you're putting that group 2 out there up front, you got to make sure you're not using a group 2 again post-emerge for grass control. So that means all of a sudden Everest 3.0 is off the table and you really need to use a group 1 like Axial, for example.
Well, once again, we would just really encourage you, use a pre, especially on your weediest acres. And especially if you have our Weed of the Week. We'll tell you what it is coming up later in the show.
Find love, and then give it all away. Find love, then give it all away.
Introducing the all-new Diamant Cornhead from Capello, USA. With a revolutionary design highly innovative for its class, we have painstakingly designed every component down to the smallest detail to maximize your harvest efficiency. This gives you unprecedented standards in operation and performance. For more information about this beast, available only in our new gray poly, call 855-CAPELLO or visit capellousa.com to find a dealer near you. Capello, wherever you are, we are.
More choices, more money. With Bayer Plus Rewards, you choose from our broad portfolio of high-performance products. Earn more money on the eligible products that are right for your farm. And use our new portal to see your purchases, track your rewards, and decide how you want to use them. Visit mybayerplus.com to sign in and start earning. That's the advantage of more control in your hands. That's the plus.
There are a lot of steps to having a perfect season. Don't let your fertilizer plan be the step that trips you up. No matter when you apply fertilizer, no matter how, AgroLiquid has the experts and the products that'll help you move closer to your target and hit the bullseye. AgroLiquid moves you closer to your target.
This is a seed bag. This bag is made of craft paper with a cellophane liner and provides nothing for seed growth. This is a seed bed. It was prepared with Case IH soil management tools. It optimizes everything from nutrient access to water infiltration to create the perfect environment for early, uniform emergence. Get to know why your seed bed drives productivity at caseih.com/soil management.
How much does your crop residue cost you? Over time, residue accumulates in your fields, building excess carbon levels and tying up your plant available nitrogen. Residue also traps P, K, and micros, and can take years to naturally become available to your crops. This is because soil lacks the diverse microbial life needed to break it all down. With Decomp, you can naturally restore life to your soil and allow the release of valuable crop fertility.
Learn more about Decomp at eggbio.solutions.
How many seed treatments are on the corn you're going to plant this spring? How many seed treatments will you use on the soybeans you're going to plant this spring? I'll just tell you, on our farm, our seed corn has 33 seed treatments on it, and our soybeans, well, we're going to put 36 seed treatments on those. All right, you might go, oh my goodness, how do you get so many seed treatments on, and why do you need that? Well, the reason why I need it is I want faster emergence, I want a better stand, and ultimately, I want better disease protection and better yield.
You absolutely can't start without a seed treatment in corn and soybeans. Not if you're going to plant early, not if you're going to have any kind of negative things or stress that plant's going to have to tolerate out in the field. And it was on display in 2019 once again. Boy, last year we had cold conditions, wet conditions across much of the country, and where we had seed treatments on versus untreated, it wasn't even like you're raising the same crop. So the question of, do I use a seed treatment or not? That's an easy answer. Absolutely you do. The real question is, which seed treatments am I going to use? There's a lot of different categories here when you think about fungicides and insecticides, even biological products that farmers are using.
Yep, those are the three categories: fungicide, insecticide, biological. When it comes to the biologicals, or as I like to call them, natural products, that's really where I want to start. You think about rhizobia bacteria that soybean farmers have been using for years and years. And let me first say, the rhizobia is so much better today because the scientists have been able to identify the right strains of rhizobia that will actually increase yield more. And how they do that is they can help produce more nitrogen for that plant each year. In addition, there are a lot of other biologicals, or as I like to call them, natural products, that are very effective out there, bacteria and fungi especially. So I was talking earlier about all these treatments we have in our corn and our bean seed. Well, the vast majority of those are biologicals or natural products. The bacteria and the fungi, when we have so many of them out there, they aren't necessarily going to work in every single situation. Yes, there are some that will do this, some will do that. We have some that will help with emergence, some that will help with heat stress, others that may help with whatever condition you have. But the point is this: part of the reason why I like putting so many out there is I figure, hey, if I can get them really inexpensively, and let's say I have 20 or 25 of them on my seed, now I have 20 or 25 chances for higher yield, and all I need is one of those things to hit to pay for my very small expense for what that seed treatment cost.
All right, Brian, I know a number of farmers that'll say, well, let's see how those biological things turn out and then I'll maybe consider it later. These are products that have been out for a long time. They aren't just something that, maybe it'll work and we'll just give it a try. It's things that have multi-years of testing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing that on a large scale. Now, a couple other things here that we had talked about, fungicides, for example. This is an area where we are seeing some changes in the seed industry, and thank goodness. We look at metalaxyl and apron type products that have been out there for, boy, as long as I can remember, probably since I was a kid. That's been all we've been doing for Pythium control, and as you can imagine, we're starting to see some tolerance. I don't know if we've got full-on resistance yet out in the field, but we're definitely seeing tolerance to that chemistry. We've got a new chemistry for Pythium that's just been out for the last few years now called ethoboxam or Intego. That's been a real game changer in a lot of fields, especially if you've got wet soils. Pythium is a water mold, and if you've got wet soils, you've got a high likelihood of having that on your seed and seedlings. So putting out some ethoboxam in addition to that metalaxyl would be a good strategy.
Darren mentioned one of the key things here. He said seedlings. And I think a lot of times, especially like in soybeans, where you have the option to treat your beans or not, a lot of people will say, you know what, I'm planting a little later, those beans will pop right out of the ground. Seed treatment's not going to do me any good anymore. Yeah, it will, because it stays in that seed for a long time. The benefits of seed treatment usually last for a couple of months. So think about not just the seed, but the young seedling. And think about how often your young seedling struggles with weather conditions, with pathogens in the soil, with insects. And talking about the insects in particular, I guess I would just say there's only one insecticide family. It's the neonic family, neonicotinoid family. That particular family has been under some scrutiny because post-emerge use has been killing some bees. Well, don't use it post-emerge. Just use it as the seed treatment and it's going to be just fine. It's safe to human beings, it's safe for the environment, it works very well, is very systemic, and is really inexpensive.
Hey Brian, I didn't finish the fungicide discussion. I just kind of talked about one component, but really it's not just one fungicide in these seed treatment mixes. We're oftentimes now seeing 3, if not 4 different fungicide families to try to prevent any resistance and to protect your seed all the way through the season.
Here's one other thing that I want to throw out. What are the replant policies and what are the respray policies with the seed treatments you're getting? For example, the seed treatment we're using on soybeans, we do get up to 2 free resprays for bugs. With the corn seed treatment, and for that matter, even the soybean seed treatment, if we have to replant, we get free seed treatment on there. In some cases, we might get total free replants. So just ask these questions of your seed dealer in advance. And also, just ask your seed dealer, especially on the corn side, what specific seed treatments are coming on that corn. Because if you're only getting 2 or 3 seed treatments on there, there are many other companies that are putting 10, 15, 30 seed treatments on, and it might be the same cost for the seed. What I'm trying to tell you here is you might be getting very similar genetics from 2 different companies, but if one is putting on many dollars more seed treatment, that seed's probably going to be worth more to you net by the end of the year.
Yeah, the biggest thing to do there, Brian, is just to ask your seed dealer what's on the seed, because there's quite a variance throughout the industry. We've talked a little bit about seed treatments here, and they're great for protecting your seed, but to protect your fields from our Weed of the Week, we'll show you what products will work best coming up later in the show.
The Weed of the Week is brought to you by Corteva Agriscience, Agriculture Division of Dow DuPont. Finish the fight against tough weeds with the Enlist Weed Control System.
Weeds are tough, but we're tougher. With unrivaled weed control, reduced drift, and near zero volatility. So, who's tough now?
Our weed of the week is an annual weed. It's common ragweed.
No, it's an annual pain in the rear, Brian, because common ragweed, well, we can't get it reliably under control with Roundup anymore. So it's one of those broadleaf weeds that we've got to look at multiple effective modes of action on for sure.
All right, we have seen a lot more common ragweed acres here in the last few years. I personally think it has a little bit to do with we've gone to no-till and we've been using a lot more Roundup, and Roundup hasn't been as effective. But like Darren said, you want to start with a good pre. So I think first with common ragweed about soybeans. That's where we see the most problem with it. My suggestion is you start with a 3 pre program. Again, that's a yellow, metribuzin, and a PPO. Now, if you wanted to throw some first rate in there also to get a 4th mode of action, you certainly could, because in many cases, first rate is still pretty effective.
Well, we see guys choosing Authority First or Sonic as that option, so you get your Authority and you get a little bit of first rate in there too. That would be fine if you don't need to save the first rate for post-emerge. So, for example, if you're in Enlist E3 soybeans and you've got the options of Liberty and the new 2,4-D product that you could use post-emerge, that's fine. Or if dicamba's been working great for you and you're planting Extend soybeans, that's fine to use your first rate pre, because you're going to do something else post.
Otherwise, post-emerge, FlexStar and COBRA are fairly effective in soybeans. In corn, we'd say start with Verdict down, follow with Status. But you know what, HPPDs aren't too bad, and certainly both of those you could spike them with a little atrazine, that would help. In wheat, I'd go with Sharpen, followed by Husky.
That's all the time we have for this week's weed, but Iron Talk is coming up next.
I need results, so I choose the one system I trust to take weeds down and keep them down on even my toughest acres with the kind of yield potential and helps keep me in the black to deliver my kind of results season after season. I choose the Roundup Ready Extend crop system. I choose results.
It's been remarkable what we've seen out of the varieties of Extend soybeans. The yield has come through for us.
We had the best soybean crop we've ever had. The yields were there.
With the Roundup Ready Extend crop system, the yield boost and the lack of weed pressure really helps our bottom line.
The technology has exceeded my expectations. It's one thing that the industry has been looking for years.
There's nothing like harvesting record crops.
It's no secret that Mother Nature doesn't always cooperate with your schedule. Field conditions in recent years kept many from timely planting and fertilizing, and when you can't get your fertilizer applied, you lose thousands of dollars in yield potential. If you need flexibility in your fertility application timing, you need a drop tube system from C&R Supply. C&R drop tubes allow you to apply liquid nitrogen in season and place it exactly where your crop needs it. To learn more about low-cost C&R drop tube solutions, visit crsupply.com.
Where we have run the Soil Warrior, we have harvested the best corn we have ever harvested in the history of Wrenwood Farms. Now, I'm kind of always wanting to push the envelope to see what else I can do to help enhance that emergence. Their ride is so much smoother. Their seed placement is even better. Where we had our best emergence and we've had our best yields was where we ran the Soil Warrior.
If you're looking to expand your farm's grain handling, you want everything to be fast and efficient. The Quick Belt from Norwood Sales is your all-around grain handling solution. Our conveyor-based system uses an 18-inch belt and a 10-inch tube, which minimizes seed damage while moving more than 10,000 bushels an hour. That's fast enough to fill a semi in 6 minutes. Plus, our hood is designed to gently direct the flow of grain straight down, keeping your crop in condition. Keep your grain and your farm moving with the Quick Belt from Norwood Sales.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
This is a seed bag. This bag is made of craft paper with a cellophane liner and provides nothing for seed growth. This is a seed bed. It was prepared with Case IH soil management tools. It optimizes everything from nutrient access to water infiltration to create the perfect environment for early, uniform emergence. Get to know why your seedbed drives productivity at caseih.com/soil management.
With more corn acres expected to be planted this season, you'll need fertilizer storage on the farm, as fertilizer deliveries may have a tough time keeping up this spring. Liquid fertilizer storage is the topic of today's Iron Talk. If you handle any amount of liquid fertilizer at planting time, side dress, or at any point during the growing season, you've learned two things. First, everyone else wants product about the same exact time that you do, and it's often tough to get what you want exactly when you want it. Second, dealers charge you a much higher price per gallon in season. Here are a few ideas of how you may equip your farm to lower your fertilizer costs and reduce the hassle when you need it. When it comes to fertilizer tanks, getting a strong, sturdy tank should go without saying. Next, have separate tanks for each product so you can store them without worrying about settling out and have the flexibility to change your blend. Then, be sure to have adequate capacity. Have enough tanks so you can handle a full load, plus have some room to go on. Whenever you fill tanks, choose products that work well in the conditions that you have to store them. For example, Liquid 28% is a great source for early in the spring because it doesn't freeze, but many of your starter blends can freeze, so be careful. If you have heated or indoor storage, it gives you more flexibility on which products you can take and when. Finally, if your tanks do happen to be outside, and really even if they're inside, chemical and UV resistance prevents algae growth in the tank and prevents chemical degradation of the fertilizer by tank-borne contaminants like rust. A proper liquid fertilizer handling system can save you time and money. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
That's all the time we have for today's show, but before we go, if you're looking for more agronomic information, we'd encourage you to check out the Ag PhD radio show. You'll find us on Sirius XM channel 147 at 2 p.m. Central each weekday.
And of course, don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We'll have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.